So welcome everybody. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome you to what I hope to be an annual forum actually on policy coherence for sustainability at the UPF. This time forming a part of the EU Green Week partner event. Now, unfortunately, the Incorporate Sustainability Conference as the culmination of the Sustainable Companies Project could not be carried out in a manner allowing for a lively debate and exchange of opinions in person to facilitate some interdisciplinarity and further work on policy coherence, as I'm currently opening the conference without a living soul in this conference room. But I'm extremely pleased to see that once again, sustainability scientists adapted to the new reality and generously joined forces in this virtual event. The 3 days that are ahead of us were designed as an attempt to spur a rich debate amongst the academic community, as well as the private sustainability actors, hopefully resulting in some tangible impacts and results on our market at the end of the day. While today is going to be dedicated to the field of sustainable public procurement with the opening note by Esteve Traveset from the Generalitat de Catalunya, tomorrow we will focus on sustainable corporate law and practices with an opening keynote delivered by Professor Beate Seafel, and finish on Friday with thoughts on sustainability in higher education in an extremely interesting high-level panel. So please join us if you can. The presentations and speeches from this conference will also be made available post-conference, and you will be further notified about it via email. So we wish for this event to be as interactive and stimulating as possible. So we will be attempting to answer as many questions from the audience as possible, and we hope to create many more other meaningful questions for achieving results in our quest for sustainability. Therefore, I invite you to pose as many questions as you feel like posing, and we will then jointly do our best to answer to them all. This conference comes at a time of unprecedented societal change, caused specifically by the COVID-19 pandemics that basically turned our lives upside down. The unexpected pause in our lives, a clear cut of the life as we know it, which kind of is changing now our production and consumption patterns, revealed the unsustainable practices that are present in our society way beyond the issue of environmental negative externalities and debate on greenhouse gases. Our communities are changing today. Proximity has now a new meaning, and the impetus for a change towards sustainability is growing by the day. As we can observe, not only from the shifting consumption patterns that are actually happening in the market, but also from the growing support from the corporate sector for a sustainable exit out of the economic challenges caused by the current pandemics. My wish for you all that are following the present conference is that it provides you with better questions and some clearly defined challenges to be solved, and opens kind of our mind to the fact that the quest for sustainability indirectly implies a transitioning from the clearly defined boundaries of scientific disciplines into cooperation across the disciplines, and calls for the academic community providing insight, once again, not only from their specific viewpoint that are inherent in the field of the expertise, but some kind of more of a broader and more involved set of values, solutions, and foundations for this new, more inclusive and sustainable society that we're trying to create. As one of my favorite quotes states by Stephen Hawking, so intelligence is basically the ability to adapt to change. I sincerely hope that the present conference will contribute its grain of salt to these global efforts towards a different tomorrow, way beyond just speeches and way beyond general statements. In that spirit, I'm also kindly inviting you to contribute to our special issue of Sustainability Journal. I hope you're aware of it. They incorporate sustainability with your work in any of the three fields, meaning either sustainable public procurement, either sustainable corporate law or practices, or sustainability in higher education. The journal is meant to further the efforts of the conference and to provide further interdisciplinary view. And the submissions are open due to the pandemics and the whole situation that has been happening until the 31st of January 2021. We already had paper published, some papers are in the review, so we're really kindly welcoming you to provide your grain of salt if you can. Now, a special thanks goes to all the key speakers for kindly accepting the invitation, especially in these times. And I would like to give a special thanks to Albert Sanchez-Graells, who is participating in this conference through a video, despite very limiting conditions that he found himself in. A word of gratitude also to our team, Marta, Marga, Roser, and Albert from the design team, who worked so tirelessly all of these months to be able to provide you the format that we find ourselves in right now. That being said, I'm very excited to open the conference with a keynote delivered by Esteve Traveset from the Generalitat de Catalunya, presenting the state of the art in sustainable public procurement and the success achieved so far in Catalonia on that manner. And Anna, the floor is all yours. And I hope you all enjoy the conference as much as I will. So thank you very much for being here. Do we have Anna already?
Yes. Thank you very much, Lela. I will share my presentation. Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to participate in the Incorporate Sustainability Conference, representing the Directorate General for the Environmental Quality and Climate Change, that is the organism that belongs to the Ministry of Territory and Sustainability of the government of Catalonia, in charge of promoting the green public procurement in the government of Catalonia. As you will see, my speech is focused in environmental aspects, because but I will try to introduce briefly social aspects and other sides of the strategic public procurement, but I'm not an expert about these other issues. For that, I will go deep in environmental aspects. In Catalonia, we started to green public procurement in 90s, but with a very simple clauses, and we published, in fact, 2 government agreements on GPP for paper and vehicles. But in fact, we started to green the centralized procurement of the government of Catalonia in 2002, 2003, since today. Very briefly, I would like to do an introduction about the evolution of green public procurement in Europe. As I can do this keynote speech, I think that it's interesting to review briefly the evolution in Europe, but the main part of my presentation will be about the green public procurement in the government of Catalonia. 20 years ago, what happens? The key question was, it is possible to include environmental clauses in public contracts? What about the principle of equal treatment and non-discrimination? Here I wrote, what happened? Here I brought 2 judgments of the European Court of Justice that are very, very relevant for the development of the procurement directive of 2004. That includes the state that it's possible and legal to include environmental clauses in tenders. What happened 10 years ago? 10 years ago, the situation was very different. Legally, it is clear that public administrations can green public procurement, and it's seen that public administrations are a big procurer. That means that public procurement can influence in the market of products and services, can change the way to produce and to consume products. And on the other hand, public administration must offer an example to citizens and buy in a responsible way, not only economic, also environmental, in an environmental way. And there were developed several public policies in this way. I want to highlight the communication of 2008 about public procurement for a better environment. I think that it's very significant. And GPP is seen as a key instrument for the European sustainable consumption and production policies. Here I put the image of some eco-labels because eco-labels were very linked with green public procurement, because we can take from eco-labels environmental criteria that are transparent, public, and based with a scientific way. What happened 5 years ago? 5 years ago appears the idea of the strategic role of public procurement. No? The new public procurement directive were published, and includes the idea that reinforce the idea that it's possible to include environmental clauses, but also that is necessary. For me, the most important change of these new directives is that it's stated that public procurement must be a strategic public procurement and must to promote social, environmental, innovation and SME policies of the governments. And it's also very relevant that the social aspects are included in this directive that was not in the directive of 2004. I include also the reference of the Spanish legislation on public sector contracts, that also in the very beginning of the law, it was stated that public procurement have to promote social, environmental, innovation and SME policies and ensure ethical public procurement and the fight against corruption. What happens currently? Currently, the policies aim to mitigate climate change and the transition to circular economy are a priority for the governments, and always public procurement is seen as a very important tool to achieve these policies. Here I just write 2 examples of the Circular Economy Action Plan of 2014 and another reference of a communication about climate change. Now I'm going to start to speak about Catalonia, our experience. As I told you, we started to green public procurement in beginnings of 2000. And here you can see the government's agreements that are valid today about public procurement in general. The government agreement of 2005 and the government agreement in 2009 include measures to promote green public procurement in ministries and companies, public companies of the government of Catalonia. Some of the measures that were included are the obligation of green several types of contracts that were also a priority for the European Commission. And another measure that is included in these government agreements is that will be developed environmental criteria for typologies of contracts. Since today, we develop these criteria that are should be followed for procurers in guidelines that are published, and that procurers can take some criteria from these guides and to give a clear message to the market about what wants the government of Catalonia for some typologies of contracts from the environmental point of view. This year, in March, was approved a new government agreement that it's about public procurement as a strategy, the government agreement only introduce the objectives and the minimum content that will have this strategy, but the strategy is currently in development. Here you can see the axis that will have this strategic public procurement strategy. The first one is efficient public procurement of quality, and the public procurement have to promote public policies of green public procurement, social public procurement, must also foster the participation of SMEs and third sector entities. For us, it's very important because here in Catalonia, SMEs are more or less 90% of the companies, and for us, it's very important the participation of these small companies in public procurement, and also reactive the economy after the COVID-19. Another axis is a bright and transparent public procurement, and we also want to give a territorial dimension to public procurement. As I told you, the strategic plan is now in progress. Maybe at the end of this year or beginning of the new year will be available. Sorry. No, sorry. The government of Catalonia have a background about the strategic public procurement. In this slide, I have include a link to the website of the General Directorate of Public Procurement of the Ministry of Economics, where you can find all the policies, all the tools that we publish to push procurers to include to do strategic procurement, public procurement. No, we have guides and also government agreements, and we publish also instructions of the government. Some of them are about gender equality in public procurement, or promotion of SMEs in public procurement, innovation public procurement, social public procurement. You can enter to this website and look at for all the tools that we have published for procurers to help them to start to do this strategic public procurement. Concerning again GPP, here I include the functional diagram of GPP in Catalonia. As you can see, we work very closely with the Central Supply Commission. For us, it's very, very important to do this. I'm sorry because it was skipped two presentations. I don't know why. Yes. Here. After the general vision of the government's agreements about public procurement, here I brought the sectoral government agreements related to GPP. The first one is about 2015, where was approved the Catalan Public Procurement Plan of Food. Mainly, these government agreements promote the consumption of food products with quality marks and fresh and organic foods. Here, another government agreement is of 2018 about energy savings and efficient plan for buildings and facilities of the government of Catalonia. And there is another government agreement of 2017 for the acquisition of low-emission vehicles and other aspects for the environmental improvement of vehicles fleets. As you know, in the urban region of Barcelona, there is an important problem of air pollution that makes necessary to develop an action plan. This action plan includes GPP, and for that was approved this government agreement. And nowadays, all the public tender contracts that for vehicles or services that include transport or distribution of products or people have to take into account this government agreement, and the fleet of vehicles have to be with low air emissions. In 2019, it was approved also single-use plastic products restrictions in the government of Catalonia, and that try to reduce the use of single-use plastics products in the public procurement. For us, as I told, public procurement is a transversal tool that should be taken into consideration in all the environmental policies. Here, there are examples of environmental policies that consider public procurement as a driving tool. The first one is, these are only some examples, but there are other ones, but it's just to show how we include GPP in all the environmental policies. The first strategy that I refer here in this slide is the strategy for the promotion of green economy and circular economy. The second one is Catalan co-design strategy. We try to include environmental clauses related with eco-design to transform the market in a sustainable way. Another is the plan for prevention and management of waste and resources of Catalonia. Here in Catalonia, the Waste Catalan Agency make a lot of efforts to promote recycled and resource-efficient products in the market, but private and public market. And the last one is the law on climate change of 2016 that also include some aims, some targets about GPP, about the fleets, the public vehicles fleets that should be electric, and about also greenhouse gas emissions calculations. Here now, that I started before, you can see the functional diagram of GPP in Catalonia. This diagram will be explained in the next slides. As you can see, we work very closely, as I told you, with the Central Supply Commission. That is the central purchasing body of the government of Catalonia. We make with them, we bring the framework agreements, the centralized contracts, but we also work with the decentralized procurement. We work with ministries and public companies of the government of Catalonia, but we also work with local and regional administrations. You can see that it was created also a Catalan GPP networking group. I will explain after a little bit this network that I think that is very useful almost for the government of Catalonia, and I think that also for the rest of participants. What we do. The first line of work is direct support in the inclusion of environmental criteria in procurement processes, centralized with the central purchasing body and also decentralized. We advise them, we help them to include criteria, and we help them to evaluate the offers of the bidding companies, and after that we also do monitoring of the performance of the contracts. The framework agreements and centralized contracts with environmental clauses that we have green until today is our paper. In 2017, we made the 6th revision of tenders. Now, currently, we are greening the office supplies framework agreement. We green also furniture. About furniture, we include criteria about hazardous substances of the products. Also, we have criteria, requirements to have a boot, FSC boot, and also we include an award criteria on eco-design. Cleaning services, we made in 2016 the 5th revision. This framework agreement is today in performance. I will explain deeply this framework agreement because we are very proud about it, and I'm very interested in explain in more detail how we clean this cleaning service contract. We green also postal services framework agreement, the centralized contract for energy, electricity, surveillance and maintenance services. This is an example of contract about a service contract where we include an award criteria concerning the environmental quality of the vehicles fleet. It's not the main issue of the contract, because the contract is for the security and it's changing the security and surveillance of service, but we include also this award criteria about vehicles and the vehicles, the acquisition of vehicles. Another line of work is the elaboration of GPP guidelines. We cannot advise all procurers to green all each tender. For that, we make these GPP guidelines. In fact, these guidelines complementing those already developed by the European Commission. We use the GPP toolkit of the European Commission, but sometimes for some products or services that are very important or very purchased by all departments on a regular basis in the government of Catalonia, we try to do these guides to help procurers, and because we think that it's important that they can take the criteria of these guides and include them in the tenders. The criteria that we propose are very linked with certification and eco-labeling systems. In fact, in Catalonia, we have our own eco-labeling system, that it's the Catalan eco-label, but we take into consideration also, of course, the European eco-label, the Nordic Swan, Blue Angel, and all the other eco-labels that there are in the market. Here you can see the guidelines that we have published. The first one is about publications. Another one is about technical solvency and environmental management. It's the second version. We have to update these guides because the market, because the evolution of the market and the changes of the regulation. There is another guide to green collective dining rooms. We review this year this guide, including clauses to prevent the food waste, and also to reduce the use of single-use plastics. We have another one for textiles, another for vehicles, another for building installation maintenance contracts, and another that it's in progress that is for the quantification of GHG emission and special conditions of contracts. Contract execution. That guide is now in progress. As I told you, try to link green public procurement with the environmental policies of the government. We have the law about climate change and a lot of policies to prevent climate change, and for that we think that it's very important to help procurers to include clauses related with climate change in tenders. This is very specific, it's for the quantification of the emissions in the contract, but we think that it's important to set a maximum emissions that can have a contract in execution, or well, I think that's very important to start to including calculation of GHG emissions in tenders. How we approve these guides? I think that's very important. How we do this? Very long time ago, the Ministry of Territory and Sustainability published guides, environmental guides for GPP, but now we work with the Ministry of Economics. For us, it's very important because it's not something sectorial, it's about all the government. And for these guides, sustainability. First of all, the Director General for Environmental Quality and Climate Change make a proposal of a guide, and then pass for the Commission for the greening of administrative procurement, where participate several departments of the government of Catalonia, but also the third sector and organizations of companies, trade union organizations. For us, it's very important because give these guides are more contrast with other agents, and at the end, this guide is approved for the administrative procurement advisory board that do the legal revision also of these guides. We also train procurers, all the people that work for the public administration that work in procurement, but also the units that are the promoters of contracts. We do this training with the help of Public Administration School of Catalonia. We have an annual course that we do about GPP in this school every year for procurers, and we think that's very important to empower the technicians and the people who work with public procurement. In the Ministry of Territory and Sustainability, we also work promoting sustainable products and services. I say this because the unit, my unit, the service where I work, is in charge of green public procurement, but is also in charge of eco-labeling, eco-design, and environmental management systems that are qualification tools very important for GPP. I think that it's very important that all these tools goes together. Here I briefly explain what is the Catalan GPP networking group. There are several public administrations advanced in GPP in Catalonia. Here you can see at the right side all the participants of this Catalan GPP networking group, and I think that some of the participants are attending now this conference, maybe after they want to say something. The regional metropolitan of Barcelona, the Barcelona City Council, also the universities of Catalunya, the consortium of services of the universities of Catalunya, and well, the Catalan Association of Municipalities of Catalunya. For us, it's very, very important, this network, because we exchange experiences. We started some projects together. We can share our failures and also successful tenders. We can help together, and we also try to disseminate the things that we do in Catalonia, all the public administrations, local and regional. We publish a newsletter. We have 3 newsletters published until today. We started in 2018, and we published the news and the most important projects that the participants did about GPP. And we also published some indicators of GPP in Catalonia, sectoral indicators, and well, we encourage all public administrations to work together. We are also members of Procura Plus network that helps a lot to us to green new tenders and to train ourselves. Well, that's about Catalan GPP networking group. The newsletter are available in English. If you want, you can mail me and I send you the link, because this newsletter is public. And just to finalize, I include an example of contract that we have green. For us is the example, because we work in all the aspects, all the important aspects of GPP. For us, we realize that it's not enough to include environmental criteria in tenders. You have to do a lot of work previously and after the contract. And here we can do all the cycle of the public procurement, and we could green all the process of public procurement. We started making prior market consultations. We always do this, but in this case we made something new for us, almost, that it was to publish an alert in the public platform of procurement of the government of Catalonia. And everybody who wants, companies especially interested in bidder in the contract, could answer a questionnaire where we ask for specific environmental aspects that we wanted to include in this framework agreement. For us, was very, very useful, because we can include it some new clauses, because for us happened that we always require, for instance, detergents with eco-labels. We always require bags, recycled bags for rubbish, and recycled paper, but we wanted to go further, no? Because we think that we have to push the market, to the transformation of the market, and we explore new criteria to include in this tender, and we could do this. We include environmental clauses. We started to bring this framework agreement in 2005. And in this last framework agreement that it's under implementation now, the products, the detergents, textiles, hand soaps, paper products and bags have to fulfill the type 1 eco-label requirements or being recycled, compostables. It depends on the product. Thanks to the prior market consultations, we include a criteria about textiles that don't have to have hazardous substances. We made these questions to companies, and they say, okay, there is market. We can. It's not easy to us, but we can try to. We think that it's possible to include this clause in this contract, and we do this, and we are happy with the results because some of the companies provide uniform for workers with less hazard, without hazardous substances. We include also a new criteria about the good environmental quality of vehicles fleet. As I told you that we have a government agreement about this, but we also include this question to the prior market consultations, and we also have a work criteria on training. This framework agreement includes also social criteria. You can see here the list: occupational health and safety aspects, gender equality measures to promote work-life balance, training for workers, working conditions of the cleaning service that fulfill the collective bargaining agreement. And at the end, we do a monitoring of the performance of the contract base. For us, it's very important. We started in 2018, and it was very disappointing for us because we make inside audits of some contracts in performance, and we saw that in many times in a high percentage of contracts in performance were not used eco-labeled detergents. For us, was a surprise because we have this clause for many years ago, since 2005 more or less. But we see that in 2018, many companies that said that they will use some specific eco-labeled products don't do this, and we realized that it's very important to monitor the performance of the contracts. It's fundamental, because if not, if you only include the criteria in the tenders and after there is not an environmental improve of the performance of this contract. Well, here about this framework agreement is included in some publications of the European Commission. One about socially responsible public procurement, and another one about green public procurement. You can, here I include the link where you can enter and see all the details of these framework agreements. And that's all. I hope that it was interesting for you, and I give you my contact detail, because if you work in public procurement and you think that we can cooperate, or we can work together or share experiences, I'm open to be in contact with all of you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Anna. That was a wonderful presentation. Now we're accepting questions. If any of the participants has a question they want to pose, you can do it through chat and we can read it here. If not, we can start the next session, and please use the contact details provided by Anna to address any further questions to her. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. As it looks like right now there are no outstanding questions, so maybe we should start with session 1. And please forward any questions that you have to Anna's address as provided by her in the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.